one gentleman who always sticks out in my mind is a gentleman who spent most of his day sleeping. He was exhausted, just exhausted. He spent his whole day in his bed. He'd come out for meals. Sometimes he wouldn't even come out for meals because he was just so tired. And he came and he said, Emily, I want to start that exercise program that you're doing. And I was just over the moon, overjoyed, because I had asked him, of course, to join in the past, never thinking he was really going to join. And he finally did. And he was like a new man, totally new man, started exercising 3, 4, 5 times a week, as many times as he could come. He had so much more energy. So when I hear someone say like, oh, I'm too tired to exercise, or my knee hurts, or, all these things are the exact reason why we should be exercising.
You're listening to My Evolved Life, a podcast that simplifies health and fitness and helps you maximize your life. My name is Vuna Win, and I'm the creator of the Evolution Training System. We're so lucky to be living in the information age, meaning it's easier than ever to access information and find answers to any questions you may have. But isn't it confusing when you read information that's conflicting, or worse yet, just sounds wrong? I'll be sitting down with industry professionals to give you clarity and leave you with tangible actions you can take immediately to improve your physical, mental, and psychological health.
Today, I welcome Emily Johson to the show. Emily is the founder of StrongerU Senior Fitness. Super excited to talk to Emily. Longevity, working well into your late years. This is something that I aspire to do. So it's a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. So first, Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk with you today.
Look, why don't we start here? I personally think you have such a fascinating concept with StrongerU. So why don't you tell the audience first a little bit about yourself, how you got into fitness, and then of course, how and why you started StrongerU.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this is a very long story, so I'll give the highlights of the journey, but I'll start with what StrongerU Senior Fitness is. So we are an education company. We empower recreation, fitness, and wellness professionals to deliver exceptional senior fitness experiences. And my background sort of leading up to that, my background's in kinesiology. I've danced and taught fitness really my entire life. And when I graduated from university, I found senior living. And I thought, wow, I can teach senior fitness classes, but also plan awesome parties and intellectual programs. And I can drive an 18-passenger bus. And it sounded like such an interesting and dynamic career. And I was really fortunate to have kind of a bit of a whirlwind career in that industry, where very quickly I went from a recreation assistant to regional manager of recreation, overseeing 49 recreation departments across Canada.
Wow.
And this is where I really started to see that we had a bit of a gap in the senior fitness industry. And I had been kind of seeing sprinkles of it for around 5 years or so. But I saw that we had, especially in retirement and senior living, we have this really captive audience. Before COVID times, when we didn't have to socially distance, we would cram 30, 40, 50 seniors sometimes into our activity rooms and wellness centers. And they wanted to be fit. They wanted to keep themselves healthy and strong and independent. And unfortunately, what I saw was that the instructors leading these classes didn't have the resources to lead really effective, engaging classes. All movement is beneficial, but there's really a lot to be said for when we move in the right way, the right frequency, intensity, all that sort of thing. That's where we see the benefits cited in the research. And from what I was seeing, we really weren't hitting that mark. So I wanted to create StrongerU to give recreation fitness professionals the resources to deliver dynamic content for those who were struggling. And then on the other end, for those who were seasoned veterans doing an incredible job at teaching, it was a way for them to keep inspired. If you've been teaching for a long time, sometimes you just get kind of stuck in your rut, stuck in your ways. You sort of plan out the same types of classes. So to see another instructor's perspective is a way for you to feel reinvigorated about your classes.
I think that's great. And I really wanted to dig into something you said there. And I think what you partially answered the question already, but you said exceptional senior fitness.
Yeah.
Now, let's not kid ourselves. There are other senior fitness programs out there.
Mhm.
So what would you say is the biggest differentiator between a good senior fitness program and an exceptional one? I assume it's gonna be the resources that you provide that you mentioned and the research that you put into that. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you picked up on that because that's something that I really try to instill in people is, yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a stretch class or a gentle exercise class or a class where you hit all the major muscle groups just doing 10 repetitions of, each of those exercises. But that's what I would say is a good or a fair exercise class. And what I try to educate on and give the resources to is creating an experience. As I mentioned, you have sometimes, well, not anymore, but you used to have 30, 40, 50 seniors who wanted to get fit, and you had them for 30, 40, 60 minutes. And within that time frame, yes, we can hit on the physical. That's the main thing that we give is the exact right exercises to activate and engage cardiovascular, engage all the major muscles, work on our balance, flexibility, all that good stuff. But a lot of what we focus on is the brain as well. So we'll have, very seasoned seniors who have exercised sometimes their whole life, but when they come into their usual class, sometimes you can see they're almost kind of falling asleep at the back because they've done this routine a million times and they could do it in their sleep. If the instructor didn't show up, sometimes they could go to the front and they could teach the class. So with our program, it's really dynamic. We never do repetitions. It's always a combination, and that combination engages the brain. Big, big brain benefit in our programs because I find the two things that seniors are most concerned about is falling and their brain health, not developing dementia or Alzheimer's. So those are the two things that we check the boxes on. We build in music, so it's a social and fun experience. There's an emotional connection to the music that helps you exercise longer and at a higher intensity. We build in a spiritual component to our stretch class where we're getting a lot of those benefits of purposeful breathing and mindfulness. It truly is not just a class, it's an experience. We want people who don't like exercise to see a StrongerU class in action and think, oh, that is something I would want to do. I don't like exercise, but if it's StrongerU, then yeah, I'm there.
Wow, there is just so much for me to dive into there. So I was just trying to pick my questions carefully, understanding that we only have 45 minutes or so. But you said something earlier, and I feel like this is very important to dive into. You said that all movement is important. All movement is important. However, moving correctly is even more important. So let's contextualize that for seniors. Why is it even more important for, when you get into those older years of your life for you to move correctly? And what does moving correctly mean?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing that I kind of debunk is a lot of times we associate senior exercise with stretching and gentle exercise. One of my absolute pet peeves is, and actually just encountered this today reading an article, and I was like, geez, is I'll use this article as an example. The article picture was a picture of two older adults, and they're stretching their arm across their chest. And you get into the article, and the article is actually talking about how cardiovascular and muscular strengthening exercises is two of the most important things to maintain cognitive, our cognitive intent as we age. And so it makes me laugh that the whole article is not even talking about stretching. They're talking about cardiovascular and strengthening exercise, yet we put a picture of two seniors stretching. And I really want to turn that on its head because stretching and flexibility has a place. It's important for everyone at every single age, but we don't just turn a certain age and we can't do the things that we should be doing. So, we have to be hitting that cardiovascular work to keep our heart and lungs strong. If we want to keep up with the grandkids and the kids and getting out into the world, then we need to have that cardiovascular strength. We need to have the strength in our muscles to interact effectively with our environment, whether that's opening a heavy door or bringing in your groceries or doing your laundry. So we need to be doing those exercises that help us to live life to the fullest and do those right exercises that are going to help us to maintain that. Because unfortunately, if we just stretch, we'll be flexible, great, but we'll usually see weight gain. as we get older, because we can become more sedentary. We're not burning those calories that we're eating. And then when we gain weight or we don't have a healthy diet, that can lead to cardiovascular disease. That can lead to it can lead to dementias as well when we have these fatty buildups throughout our body and including our brain. So it's so important as we age to do the right types of exercise and not just the stretching.
Absolutely. And I do want to clarify something. I think one of the big misconceptions, in my understanding anyways, is when it comes to senior fitness, we tend to think about maintenance, right? Preserving the muscle that you have, the strength that you have. But in your experience, would you say that there is still a great opportunity to develop upon, increase, get better in those ages?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And all the research points in that direction. So many people think that, like you said, you have to maintain or just try not to lose it at that age, but that's not true. There's lots of research that shows that if you take two sedentary individuals, an older adult and let's say a 20-something-year-old, and you put them through an exercise regimen, not maybe the same exact exercise regimen, but they can both have increases in muscular strength, aerobic capacity, at similar rates to each other. So your body really doesn't know how old you are. All your body knows is what's going on in your life. If it knows that, okay, I don't do groceries anymore because my son brings the groceries over, I really don't walk that much anymore, they're not going to take those calories and redirect them to your muscles. They're going to allow those muscles to atrophy because your body wants to preserve those calories for where it's really needed. And if you're saying, hey, I don't need these leg muscles anymore, that's when those muscles atrophy. So as well, when people say about age-related weight gain, I always say it's not age-related weight gain, it's inactivity-related weight gain because we stop moving, or it's inactivity-related muscle atrophy, not age-related muscle atrophy. Of course, age does play some factor, but inactivity is the bigger factor in this picture.
Absolutely. And just for the folks that may not have an exercise background, can you quickly describe what atrophy is?
Yes. So atrophy is basically the shrinking of our muscles. They get smaller. And so muscles need calories and nutrients in order to stay big and healthy and strong. As we work on our muscles or we work out, they get larger to deal with the demands that are being placed on them. When we stop working out on our muscles, maybe during the pandemic, you weren't hitting the gym as much and you felt like, oh, wow, my muscles have actually gotten smaller. That's muscular atrophy.
Perfect. Thank you for that explanation. Needless to say, the benefits of exercise there's so many. Like, we don't need to talk about them here today because at this point in time, especially through the midst of COVID or in the midst of COVID, we have talked about this at length. No matter where you go, exercise, it protects your mental health, etc. There's a lot of benefits. And by no means do I ever want to get into fear mongering, but I think it's an important discussion though. So you were talking about exercise as being a good preventative of things like dementia. Mm-hmm. Why should we, in our earlier years, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or even 50s, why should we start thinking about these things today?
Yeah, for sure. We need to be thinking about it at every single age, whether you're 20, 30, 50, 70, 100. Mm-hmm. It's the good news is it's never too late to start, but the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be. I've seen incredible individuals into their 90s and the hundreds. I had a woman I worked with, she was 100 years old. She was actually going blind, so her body couldn't even keep up with her, but she was still going down to the bus stop, getting on the bus, going downtown Calgary. She was going to her bowling league, and she was remaining active and social at over 100 years old. So, and she was active her entire life. So it was easier to maintain the things that she loved to do as she ages. So the word of warning is that if you want to remain active doing the things that you love to do, it is important to start as early as possible. But on the flip side, if you're thinking about, hey, I haven't been active, I want to starting to get active, the research is saying that's going to help you as well.
Absolutely. And, I do want to hone in on dementia specifically. The brain is something that I'm fascinated by. I want to preserve mine for as long as I can. Mm-hmm. So based on your research, and if you don't have the answer, that's okay. But based on your research, how much more risk are you putting yourself of getting dementia or Alzheimer's or any brain cognitive related issues if you don't
Mhm.
exercise, if you don't move your body in that right way?
Yeah, for sure. I don't have a stat on the top of my brain
That's okay.
today for how much more risk, but when the World Health Organization released their guidelines for the risk reduction of dementia and Alzheimer's, they listed out all these different things that you can do that would reduce your risk. And they listed things like nutrition, doing things like a Sudoku or a brain puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
exercising. And their number one recommendation from all the research they did and compiled was that exercise is number one. That's the number one thing you can do to keep yourself fit and healthy. And that's because the brain and the body are not separate, they are connected. And anytime any of our muscles or organs has an increase in blood flow, it's good for that organ. So what happens when you exercise? You get an increase in blood flow throughout your body, including that brain, all this nice oxygen rich nutrients heading to those muscles and heading to your brain, and that's great for staving off dementia and Alzheimer's. So getting fit is number one. If you can choose to do a Sudoku or you can choose to exercise, definitely exercise. And further to the brain benefit, you're not going to see yourself getting, that weight gain, which can lead to cardiovascular risk, which is, it's always kind of a one chronic condition is sort of a downward spiral to having many chronic conditions in your life. So getting active is going to help keep all of that at bay.
We just can't overstate the benefits. It's so glaring, but some of us don't get it. I don't want to say that, it sounds bad, but truly, some of us don't get it. When you are telling me that some of your older seniors are in their 90s, maybe getting close to 100, and they're still spry, they're still going, they're still strong. That is absolutely fascinating to me. And I don't mean to shame anybody, but there are quite a few of us nowadays in our 20s, in our 30s, who might not be able to move as well as they do. And that's because we haven't put that or placed that importance on health and physical activity. Now, speaking to your clients specifically, when you have somebody who has been exercising their whole life versus somebody who is just getting into it for the first time in their senior years, what is the biggest difference that you see in them, whether it's physical, mental, psychological, whatever that difference may be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, as we get older, if we want to get involved in exercise, usually it's because things are starting to get harder. They can't do the things that they used to want to do. Maybe they were quite, and this is all kind of pre-COVID, but maybe they were quite the social butterfly and they would go out for lunch with their friends and all these fun things. And then they had a fall, they now have a walker and they feel self-conscious about having this walker and, navigating between the tables. And, it just is not a great quality of life. So for an individual who's looking to say, hey, I want to get active now so I can get rid of this walker, a lot of times the goals of the individual changes. So when I'm talking to an older adult, it's always, what's the why? What will being physically active allow you to do better within your life? Do you have a trip coming up and you want to be able to keep up with the grandkids and kids and not feel like you're slowing them down? Just the psychological burden of thinking, oh, they're going to have to park me somewhere while they go off and have a good time. People want to interact effectively with their environment. They want to live life to the fullest, and fitness can help them do that.
Yeah. So if you're okay, I'd like to engage in a little bit of role play. Okay.
Sure.
So I'm in my senior year, say I'm 60, and you are a potential trainer of mine, but I am very, very hesitant. Emily, I understand. I've been hearing a lot that exercise is so important, and it gets more important as I get even older, but I've never done it before. And I'm scared. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if my body can handle these types of movements. How can you help me?
Yeah, for sure. Well, number one conversation when I'm talking to someone new is, have they spoken to their doctor? That's going to be important because sometimes people don't quite understand the different kind of components of their condition. Some in a being careful because we shouldn't do this. But most time it's actually a freeing experience to talk to your doctor. And an example of that is I've spoken to different individuals who say, oh, I have this, so I shouldn't exercise. And I say, okay, well, you should talk to your doctor and let them know you're thinking about it and see what they say. So that would be the first thing that I would say to you is, hey, go talk to your doctor. And most time your doctor's going to be like, yes, they want to start exercising. More and more doctors are understanding the power of fitness versus just giving a pill. And so, that's number one is talk to your doctor. And then number two, it's finding out about your lifestyle. So, again, into the role playing, maybe you have to make something up, but how has your life changed compared to 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Is there something you used to love to do that you haven't been able to do because of your inactivity?
Yeah, and you said something very, very important there. I think that history is very, very important. In my time as personal trainer, I'm no longer an active personal trainer, but one of the most important things to me was understanding my client's history. So whether that's injury history, history with exercise, we need to know about their past. But the thing is, they're not always 100% transparent. And sometimes you have to use a little bit of your intuition. You have to assess their movements and identify that, maybe they had a shoulder injury. But of course, in those younger years, you're a little bit less vulnerable. You can recover a little bit easier than if you were to suffer or sustain an injury in your older years. So speaking to your seniors, how much do you have to really dive into their history before you take them on as a client?
Yeah, I do think it's really, really important. And it's important to the success. From a safety perspective, if as long as you're a certified, educated trainer, you're probably not going to do anything to hurt an individual without a history. But I think it actually more speaks to having success with that client because, like you said, everyone knows the benefits of exercise. And because we know them so much, it becomes almost like white noise in the background. And it just doesn't motivate us. So we need something powerful. We need a powerful why of, okay, why am I going to bother to come to this session and spend my money and spend my time doing this? If, okay, I want to stave off heart disease and dementia and all that stuff, but what's going to help me now in the moment? We're so instant gratification at, any age and stage of our life. So that's so key is like, what can we work towards? Oh, okay, you're working towards going on that Mexico trip with your family for so-and-so's wedding. Okay, let's work on the walking because you're going to be walking a lot at this really big resort. So we can tie the movements back to the goal as well. Oh, you want to get rid of that walker. Okay, great. We got to work on the balance and the strength and standing upright. Oh, you want to be able to get out of a chair. It's crazy to think about, but some older adults will not go out in public because they're worried about if they have to go to the bathroom, they're not going to be able to get off that toilet by themselves. And that's, not the most pretty thing to think about, but could you imagine not being able to do the things you love because of that? So with that individual, it might be working on lower body strength, sit to stand, these very functional movements that are going to truly help them to interact with their environment successfully.
Yeah, and what you just said there was so important. And I for any personal trainer that may be listening to this conversation, I really want them or you to hear that message, right? Whether it's for seniors or for somebody who is in their youth, it's not always textbook. In fact, I would dare say that it's never textbook. Having textbook knowledge is great, but it's always going to be case by case, individual by individual. And I'm hearing that becomes even more true when you start to as you start to age and get limited by just your daily functions, right? Not being able to go to the bathroom. I could not imagine, right? But these are things that you really, really have to consider when you get into that older age.
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on what you said there about the training and what you're focusing on. I think one of the biggest, and we're needing more trainers who are working with older adults. And so often trainers are used to people who want to work on the shoulders, the biceps, they want the abdominals, the butt. Like, these are more cosmetic things that younger individuals who are exercising are focused on. So it's like, okay, yeah, I can give you an exercise to work on your biceps, whatever. But with older adults, it has to be around that functionality about, okay, what are their goals and how are we going to get them to, what is the exercise that helps them to do that activity, that way of life a little bit better?
Yeah, totally. And just because you just said that, let's dive into that a little bit more. So when you ask that crucial question, what are your goals? What are some common answers that you hear?
Yeah, kind of a few of the ones that I've already talked about. So things like, yeah, I just want to get out and walk the stairs to get up into church. You know, they don't want to have to go around the back to where the ramp is because they have a walker. Or they want to be able to go out for lunch with their friends and they feel embarrassed to have this walker. I hear that quite a bit, actually, the walker and the cane.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not actually a big fan of them trying to not use the walker or the cane, but I'm a big fan of them standing up tall, nice tall posture,
Right.
pushing that walker in front of them versus leaning on that walker. Because we see that with so many, they lean on the walker, they lean over kyphotic posture, their shoulders are in, and it just actually, they get weaker because they're using that walker. So
Right.
that's definitely a big one that I hear.
Yeah, they develop a certain dependence on that walker, right?
Yeah. And actually, I should say that I do get some older adults who say, "How can I get that butt?
Yeah.
How can I work on this?" And they touch their belly. So, you know, there are some older exercisers who do want to focus on some of those cosmetic things as well, but mostly it's due to function.
I want to ask a little bit of a leading question, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
I'm curious, how often do you hear a client say, man, you know what, the work that I've done with you, I feel so good. I wish I had started earlier.
Yeah, so often, so often. And actually, I wanted to say this earlier and I forgot, so thank you for asking this question again. But you'd asked about, you know, people who've exercised for a long time and then people who haven't. There's been so many individuals I've worked with who, like their family and even themselves, they don't recognize them because they're so much fitter, so much more active. And one gentleman who always sticks out in my mind is a gentleman who spent most of his day sleeping. He was exhausted, just exhausted. He spent his whole day in his bed. He'd come out for meals. Sometimes he wouldn't even come out for meals because he was just so tired. And he came and he said, "Emily, I want to start that exercise program that you're doing." And I was just over the moon, overjoyed, because I had asked him, of course, to join in the past, never thinking he was really going to join. And he finally did. And he was like a new man, totally new man, started exercising 3, 4, 5 times a week, as many times as he could come. He had so much more energy. So when I hear someone say like, "Oh, I'm too tired to exercise," or "My knee hurts," or, you know, all these things are the exact reason why we should be exercising.
Yeah, and on that, let's talk a little bit about the change in that self-confidence that they get
Mm-hmm.
when they engage in exercise.
Yeah, for sure. I think of another woman who I worked with, and she used to struggle to get in and out of her her grandson's car. It was really low, and so she could, if he wanted to pick her up, she really couldn't go because he'd have to kind of yank her out of the seat, and which is not a comfortable experience for anyone. So again, these are these barriers to being able to interact with your environment. And the same thing. So after a few months of her exercising, much easier for her to swing her legs out, get herself up out of that car seat. And even, it was funny, her family would call to check in on how she's doing, and she was never in her suite. She was always out exercising, doing things, and they would always say like, "Wow, Mom, you're just so busy. We hardly recognize you." One other story I'll share too is a woman who I worked with heart failure, and they swear they told us like, "Oh yeah, Mom's probably not got too much time left," and she continued on exercising for months and months and months and months. I think it was nearly over a year past her, let's call it, expiry date that the doctor had given her, and she exercised that whole time. And you know, a lot of times you get a diagnosis like heart failure where someone says, "Hey, you know, your heart is really beyond repair. We can't really do any procedures. There's really no lifestyle you can change, just make at this point." And for her to stay active, and her saying she always had was "Carpe diem," seize the day. She would say that, and she totally did. She, even with heart failure. So countless stories of like this where people are in rough shape and they exercise and they have a new life.
You know, it's really awesome, Emily. I can tell just the way you're telling these stories. I can tell your heart like melts for your clients,
Yes.
and so you're so proud of them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's so amazing. So let's divert our attention a little bit to the trainers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, trainers today, dime a dozen. I think If I'm not mistaken, there's something like 400,000 personal trainers in North America. A lot. There's a lot of them.
Mhm.
What would be the traits of an excellent, or I guess the word you used was exceptional, personal
Mhm.
trainer for seniors?
Yeah, for sure. You kind of picked up on the energy and the excitement I have for training with older adults. And I would say for trainers who are thinking about working with older adults, you can fall in love with it really quickly. So I would say give it a try. Maybe shadow a trainer who specializes in working with older adults, and you may have found your new niche. Because yeah, it's great to help, young 20-something-year-olds work on their butt or their biceps or whatever. But when you help someone to go on a trip of a lifetime with their family, or to be able to be almost unrecognizable for how much more energy they have, like that really gets your heart. So I would say, just from a return on investment for the work you're putting into the world to the karma bank you're getting in return, it's amazing to work with older adults. But I think it's important that you do the right research, because I also have our research and training education, because I have seen some trainers who think that they can kind of slow everything down and it becomes applicable to seniors, and that's not quite the way. So definitely find yourself a mentor, find yourself someone who can kind of show you the ropes, and it can be a very rewarding career.
Absolutely. And I can only imagine the sense of gratitude that they express, your clients express, is great, because you are helping them do something that they never thought they could do again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's amazing. And I think that's so important. Understanding your scope of work, what you are capable of doing as a
Mm-hmm.
trainer. Like for me personally, I've been training for a long time. Like I said, I'm no longer active, but I would never dare train a senior, not with my current qualifications or
Mm-hmm.
with my scope of practice, because I haven't learned anything about seniors. It's not
Yeah.
just about, like you said, slowing down the repetitions or
Mm-hmm.
using resistance bands because it's low impact. I think there's a lot
Yeah.
more to it, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where Stronger you provide that education, you provide those resources, you provide that training. That's why I think it's such a fascinating model.
Thank you. Yes, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a open door, a bridge to say, hey, you have skills. You know about the muscles. You know about the different exercises that are good for those muscles. All these great things. Now let's just make it specific to seniors. So a lot of times they're just not sure what to teach, and that's what we give you with Stronger You, is exactly the what to teach. You already know kind of the how and the why. Now we'll give you the what, so that way you can feel confident in the program that you're teaching.
Absolutely, and you know, I think personal trainers, for the most part, I'm sure there are some that are in it just for the money. But I think the other personal trainers are training because they inherently want to help, right?
Mhm.
So I just see that Stronger you just help them help others in the right way. You give them the
Yeah.
tools to help them in the right way. So I know I'm selling you up a little bit here, but no, truly, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's our whole goal.
Yeah. So going back to the clientele once more, um, you know what, they want to start exercise, but Stronger You just may not be the right option for them at the moment. And I'm sure you're
Mhm.
fine with it. It is what it is, right?
Yeah,
But being as you're so passionate about helping them, I'm sure you would encourage them to exercise nonetheless, whether it's with
yeah,
Stronger You or on their own accord.
for sure.
If it's on their own accord, what is the safest way for them to enter or to start exercising?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a huge fan of getting walking. That's like number one. If you're not going to do anything else, just get walking. It's great to get out in the fresh air. It doesn't matter if it's wintertime, summertime, fall, whenever. Get out there and just start walking. Walk to your mailbox and back. Walk to the end of your block, end of your driveway, even. Just get walking, get moving. Walking is one of those exercises that is just all encompassing, because it's lower body strength, as well as working the cardiovascular system, your heart and lungs. And if you add in poles, which I love pole walking as well, you get even more engagement in your shoulders, in your arms, your triceps. And actually, pole walking makes you walk a little faster, so it's actually going to give you a little bit more of a push. So if for nothing else, just start walking. And then that's going to help you just to see improvements in your physical ability just with that.
Yeah, and I think part of your service or part of having a trainer in general is having that extra accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you encourage them, or how would they find accountability if they are doing it by themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that is exactly why, I do recommend individuals, go to a StrongerU class, find a StrongerU instructor, because, if you get exercises from a physiotherapist or, if someone like me says, hey, start walking, it's hard to follow through on that when you're by yourself, when you don't have someone necessarily motivating you. But again, that's why we have, classes where we have an instructor who is going to take them through the program, is because, you've got a group of friends that are going to have fun. So it's a bit of a sneaky way to keep you accountable, because you just enjoy it as well as knowing that it's good for you. But, try to reach Canada's physical activity guidelines. Try to set that goal of 150 minutes. Your speed, how far you're able to walk, what you're able to do, it's going to vary depending on your physical ability. But if you're reaching for that 150 minutes of aerobic activity, if you're trying to get 2 days a week of muscle strengthening, those are the two best things you can do to start to see those results. And maybe make a member of your family keep you accountable. Say, hey, John, I'm going to start exercising. Would you mind calling me every few days and asking how my walk went? And I'm sure there's apps and groups out there that you can join to keep yourself accountable as well. But there can be simple things.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about your classes then. If I'm somebody who wants to sign up, or I may have parents or friends who are a little bit older who want to sign up, what can they expect? Do you offer different levels of difficulty? How do you cater to your clients, and what can they expect in your classes?
Yeah, for sure. So StrongerU Senior Fitness instructors get 4 formats. So they learn cardio, strength, stretch, and circuit, which is our balance program. And then essentially they take those 4 programs and they put them into their schedule in order to try to help individuals hit Canada's physical activity guidelines. So usually the instructor will say, try to come to a few of our cardio classes per week, at least 2 of those strengthening classes per week. The stretch class is a really meditative program. So it's, at least once a week, it's something that's great to do. And same thing with the balance program, at least once a week, because balance is, you're going to get that through the cardio, through the strength and circuit. So really all of the programs are going to contribute to balance. But if you're coming to the cardio class, actually with all the programs, there's going to be music you're familiar with, that you like. And if you have more suggestions, we're always looking for more suggestions. You're going to have a warm up in every class. We're going to focus on that cardio or that strength, and we're going to have a stretch at the end. So it's 30, 45, or 60 minutes, and you're going to get a full workout.
That's amazing. And where can I attend one of these classes?
Yeah, so classes all across Canada, the US, and even Australia. Basically, wow. Right now, individuals can go to the StrongerU Senior Fitness website, and there's a drop-down menu for them to say that they're looking for a StrongerU class, and then we would find out where they are and look to hook them up with the closest instructor or one of the virtual options. So we've actually just added to our website a classes section because we've been mostly focused on the trainers. And not so much on the seniors, but now we've had more of the seniors coming to our website as well, looking for classes. So we do our best to connect them with the class closest to them.
That's great. So you did mention your website. What is your website, and where else can they find you?
Yeah, so Stronger, the letter U, SeniorFitness.com is our website. They can head there to learn more. As well, we are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all those fun places. So same thing, type in StrongerU Senior Fitness. StrongerU is all one word, and they'll be able to find us.
I'll make sure to provide all those links for sure.
Awesome,
so being as you've established yourself, you've been doing this for, how long? Have you been?
Yeah, just over a decade in the industry,
right.
But StrongerU's been around for just over a year.
So you've been doing this for a while. You've got the programming out there. You're now starting to offer more classes for the clients directly. What's next? What haven't you done?
That's That's a good question. I think for the time being, we're just focused on the more individuals, recreation, fitness, and health professionals that we can give access to our program, our materials. The more seniors that they're going to help. That's how we help as many seniors as possible, is through them. So we just recently started expanding, focusing on the expansion a little more into the United States. We naturally kind of expanded there, but now more of a focus on people in the US finding out about us. So basically it's just going to be kind of, world domination, taking over the world, getting seniors active.
No, and I think you're well on your way there. Because you're helping the people in the way that you do, that word of mouth is going to spread like wildfire. So good on you for that.
Thank you.
So my final question for you: if anyone is living an evolved life, what does that mean to you?
Living an involved life. Well, that's really what I found with StrongerU is trying to find something that I'm passionate about. I left a pretty big job to do this, and that was pretty scary. But I think if you're passionate about something and you can make a difference, I think that's the whole thing in the world, is to know that you're helping people. It just rewards you a millionfold.
That's incredible. So Emily, thank you so much for your time. I loved every bit of it. You're so passionate. You talk with an absolute fire for your clients, and I can only see your success. That world domination is not a stretch. I believe that. So thank you again, Emily.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of My Evolved Life. If you found any value at all, and I know you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button below so you're always notified of new episodes. We'll be releasing a new episode every single week. So until next week, live an evolved life.